everybody. This is David Anderson. This is the Monday, June 5th meeting of the Timex Sinclair online user group. We don't have an agenda tonight, so it's going to be freewheeling craziness. I am actually going to call on Jeff because I know Jeff has made progress on his really cool project. And I see we have a new person here, Bob. And I'll probably call on Bob to tell us about himself. Um, but other than that, it's going to be who knows what. Um, Jeff, are you ready to show us anything? Do you have or do you need a minute? Oh, you're muted.
I'll need a few minutes,
You'll
David.
need a few minutes. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'll tell you, I've done a bunch of archiving, and I think I talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. And since then, I've been doing more tape archiving and loading them up to archive.org, all sorts of craziness. There's a program called Sound Design that was released to let you adjust the settings of the AY sound chip inside the 2068, to make it program it to make laser noises and the other crazy noises. And it was actually kind of cool. This sound design program, not only did it let you, adjust the registers and make different sounds, but it had examples of um, things like bomb drops or crashes and explosions that required a for loop in order to generate the sounds. It would do not just the registers but change those registers over time. That was an interesting little program. If your heart's desire is to word process on your 2068, there are several versions of mscript available, and I know we must have at least one or two veterans on tonight who have used mscript. um, there was this cute little program. So actually, I'll back up for a second. There was a magazine called SyncWare News, and SyncWare News was started by Fred Knackbauer, um, and it was more of a technical magazine newsletter for Timex Sinclair users, and it had a lot of articles on how to build hardware devices for your computer. So, for instance, um, John Oliger and Fred Knackbauer teamed up to make a um, a set of expansion boards that would plug into the back of the 1000 to let you uh, that added a Texas Instruments TMS 9918 video display chip. So the same chip that was used in the TI 994A, I think in the Coleco Atom. Oh yeah, definitely in the Coleco Atom, and maybe some other home computer game systems. It was popular in the MSX computers, so they teamed up. John Oliver did the hardware. Uh, Fred wrote um, um, modifications to the 1000 ROM that would integrate it so that the 9918 became native, right? You know what it was like? It was just an extra display. It was the display. It changed how the display file worked and stuff. So that was one of the kind of articles that appeared in SyncWare News. So anyway, um, Tom, they had a contest. They had a contest for 2 years in a row, I think, for programs. I think they had a couple different categories and that people could submit stuff to, um, and uh, people sent in all manner of crazy programs on cassette. In for this contest. One of those programs was that um, basic 64 column basic that Wes Brzezowski wrote that Jeff K was trying to get to work. Um, that turned out up on a cassette tape, and I was able to archive that. And one of the other very amusing little things was this virus program that Tom Woods wrote for the 2068, and you would run it, and this little one line, 8 bits worth of character would work its way across your screen and then jump to another place and work its way across your screen, eating away at the characters on the screen. So these are some of the high quality downloads that you can now get on archive.org. There's a bunch of other cool stuff too. I really enjoyed Tom Wood's buggy software, as he called it. There was a guy named Harry Peters, I think we talked about this last time, who wrote this little dog animation thing that was very cute. So there are, oh gosh, I don't know, looks like 20-ish things that I've uploaded in total just to that. And I've been using, as Adam suggested, it's called the old
TOSEC.
and yeah, TOSEC. And what does it stand for? It's the old
Oh gosh, don't ask me
software
that.
something collective. It's a naming convention that they came up with where it puts a lot of useful information into the name. And after having seen it, I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Tells you who wrote it and when it was written, and all those sorts of things.
Also, what system it's for?
What
Because
system it's for? Yes. And Adam, you convinced me. I had started out with just 2068 and I changed it to TS 2068 because there's the 1000, which I will be archiving software for, and theoretically that could be a name
Amiga
collision with
1000.
the Amiga. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As if anybody would confuse the Timex Sinclair 1000 with the Amiga
It
1000.
happens to me all the time. I'm like, the
It happens
Timex
all the
1000
time.
is way better, more powerful. Who needs the 68,000 CPU anyway?
Well, Andy Warhol was a famous Timex Sinclair
Yeah,
1000
yeah,
user. Yeah, real
yeah.
famous. Hey Jeff Burrell, you got stuff on your screen.
Yes. Oh,
I'm going to focus on you now. Look at that stuff.
so this is I guess an update for my video board, and I've pretty much got everything taken care of. I've been working with the Wednesday group to try and make my board compatible with theirs. So there's a little bit more FPGA work that needs to be done for that. But um, this is the high res screen that is available in my FPGA. It's a 256 by 192 256 color mode, and I just wrote a real quick program in Z88DK and C, since that's a lot faster, to just go ahead and throw up and throw up is probably the operative word here, a display to show what the capabilities are. And I've also included a 128 by 192 16 color mode that I don't have a demo for, but I've checked out using some software. And there's also a 256 by 192 4-color mode as well. The intent on these is that this high res screen, as I've demonstrated before, can work in conjunction with the Timex display, so that one of them can be a background, one of them can be a foreground, and you're able to use that in games or whatever else you might want. This thing also handles the standard Timex modes. Just give me a second here.
Yeah. So, Jeff, what I want to know is why you didn't write a video game for us with jumping characters and whatnot.
As I've said before, I'm a realware guy, not a software guy.
Your idea of programming is solder?
That's right. So this just demonstrates the standard modes on the Timex.
Yeah.
And
and you have two video outputs, right?
oh yeah, the high res and the Timex can be displayed simultaneously on two different monitors. Uh, I can't remember. Have we gone over the feature set on this board?
You did, but you know what? There's folks who haven't seen it yet, so
Oh, all
give
right.
us a quick recap.
The board itself has an FPGA that incorporates all the video circuitry. It also has two simultaneous VGA outputs. In this particular case, I have output A tied to the Timex display. Output B is tied to the high res display. Although in software you can swap them around however you want. The FPGA also allows you, as I said before, to overlay the Timex and the high resolution displays on one another. There's also a VDP 9916 core in the FPGA that would allow you to do that. So either A or B can be any of those different options.
Okay.
And then I won't load up mscript simply because it takes forever for it to load. But it allows you to use the standard 512 by 192 display for high resolution. I've also added a mode in the FPGA so that you can do the 64 column mode, but also use the attributes in the video memory area as well. So you're not just limited to one color. That's again an expanded video mode that you can select via software and writing to the IO ports.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So how far along to when do you think you'll be running boards off?
As soon as we sort out the compatibility with not BE signal,
yeah,
I'll probably need to add some extra lines to the daughter board. But after that, then the design I think is pretty much done.
Wow.
I will want to relay the board out because I made an unfortunate choice of memory chips. And it's only because they're kind of difficult to solder onto the board. I've always hated SOJ chips, but they're cheap. There's a reason for that.
There's a reason. That's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing. I each time you show me this, I'm like, my mind is blown as to about how cool. And when you said you added that new sort of lower res mode, I said to you that both the two folks into computer art on this on this little meeting would certainly enjoy playing with that.
Everybody loves computer art.
Everybody loves computer art.
If anyone has any questions, I'm open as long as I'm not encroaching too much on David's time here.
My time. No, this is your time. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff?
Well, how much time have you put into it since 2 weeks ago? I know that you're further along now than you were. I mean, I just logged in, but didn't catch the whole thing. I don't quite think.
Oh, probably about 6 hours over the last week or so, trying to get some of the options incorporated. So
does that include writing your little high-res demo there?
Yeah, actually it does.
Oh, wow.
So actually, yeah, Jeff, tell me, how did you find using Z88DK?
Actually, it's pretty transparent. Z88DK handles some very tricky stuff for you. For instance, when I use Z88DK to do some stuff on the 64 column mode,
yeah.
And it turns out that you can set a compiler switch so that Z88DK will automatically load a small stub program that takes care of changing the video mode service and that whole thing. And then when you boot in, it's moved all the stuff up to high memory, and then you can start, using 64 column mode very easily. So that's a big advantage. But other than that, they've made it pretty easy for use with the 2068.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Z88K is a cross compiler, right?
Yeah, it's a C cross compiler and assembler.
Yeah, and it, it can target a bunch of things, including the 2068, a lot of other Z80 based computers. And
I've had problems though with that. It'll do high res in the 2068, but it won't do native resolution on the 2068 that I could get to work.
What do you mean, Tim?
You have to, there's a compiler switch that I can send you. I have a batch file that allows you to switch between the two. There is a way of compiling it so it uses the standard 32 column mode.
Because I posted online about a year ago how to do this, and this got all these different things, and none of them work. But yeah, I'd like to see that.
Okay, I can post that.
I basically abandoned it for the 2068 because I couldn't get it to that 32 column mode.
Okay, I'll post that to the IO group then.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
I used it a lot for the ZX81, but not for the 2068.
Did you really? What did you write for the? In C, there's your starting point, C.
Yeah.
For the ZX81, I'm
bunch of things. So I'm working on something now where I need things in BASIC run slow. I converted the code over to C, and it runs a whole lot faster.
Yeah.
By like factor of 10 or more.
Yeah. And you're doing it on Linux, I assume, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jeff, are you on Linux or Windows?
I'm on Windows.
Okay. And I can't remember. I assume it's available for the Mac, which is Unix, basically. Wow. Well, this is great because I've long wanted to learn, how to use it, and now I know that there's a support system. I could call up Tim and Jeff and say, "What the heck?" This won't help me with the fact that I know hardly any C. But cool. All right.
There's some good tutorial books out there. You could find something.
I have heard that there might be a book or two about C. Yes.
I even have first and second edition Kernhan and Ritchie books that are on PDF. Because if you try and buy them now, they're like 40 or 50 bucks, I think.
Whoa.
If you're buying new,
those old things.
They're the definitive books on C.
I know. Just being a smart aleck. Cool. Very cool. All right. Hey, Adam, how did it go with you and Ryan and your crazy experiment the other night?
Well, remind me what were you talking about? I got home like a minute before I joined this meeting from Santa Fe in a rainstorm and things like that. I am not on the ball right now, but my wife's like, you love your Timex meetings, so you got to be home for it. I'm like, okay, well, I'll make that happen if you can make that happen. So
very nice.
Ryan and Adam are meeting. You're referring to what exactly? Like
you were trying
together for a couple of weeks.
Some kind of meeting software, I think.
Oh, that's the only something I talked to you about personally. I didn't bring that up to the group, but I guess I could talk about that here if you want. Okay, so I haven't brought this up in the group publicly, but like 3 nights ago, Ryan and I, he gave me a call on, was it Thursday or Friday night? Because for those who don't know, I've repeated this several times, but Ryan lives local to me, and we get together a couple times a month. And so he gave me a call when I was posting some stuff to the group, and he's like, "Hey, let's talk about this," because I was posting about it. And we talked for like 2 hours, and I was like, "You should have just come over," because he lives like 5 minutes away. But what we ended up doing was using the software, because keep in mind that Ryan is a Linux user, and he has some issues using Zoom because he's using it on his Raspberry Pi 400, which isn't supported anymore. It used to be, no longer, I guess. I mean, Ryan's on the meeting. If I'm making any mistakes here, he's actually not he's on the road. He's on a road
He's on-
trip right now, but
He's on the train.
on the meeting.
He told us earlier he's on the train going to Disneyland.
On a train. Okay, I didn't
Mhm.
realize he was on a train, but that's cool. Hopefully he's on Amtrak. I've taken that a few times. That's cool. But while we're on this phone call, he's like, "Hey, check your email. I sent you a link using some software, which I forget the name of it. Ryan, if you're there, jump in and tell me what it was called again. That it was basically, it's kind of similar to Zoom, but it's open source. And he and we had a meeting, a meeting, not exactly a meeting. Oh, he's screen sharing.
He's trying to figure out how to use his phone.
Okay,
and the Zoom.
we'll see how that works out. In the meantime, but we basically had a private Zoom meeting that lasted about an hour. And mostly it was just to test the capabilities of him using his Raspberry Pi and the software. Wow, is that what we're looking at?
That's where
Whoa.
Ryan is.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was on the way from Santa Fe to Albuquerque about an hour and a half ago. And so he's actually, I guess, heading west or east, excuse me. He's on his way to Texas. Or no, he's on his way
going to
west.
Disneyland, California, right?
Yeah,
That's
California,
west.
yeah. I'm thinking of Texas because he and I were talking about possibly going there. So
To the VCF.
Yeah, that's far to go.
Wait, no, hold on. But Jeff, you said you might go.
What?
Jeff K. I think on the list.
Yeah. I'm working with a buddy from work to try to get over there. We bought our tickets for the VCF. We're trying to get the lodging figured out.
What? Huh. Well, Ryan just said he'd drive. It is
remember?
12 hours though. It's 12 hours from here. It's a long ways. I just about a month ago. In fact, the last Monday meeting we had, I got back from Texas from a 10-hour road trip about half an hour before the meeting started from Cross Plains, and it's a long drive. I mean, Ryan, if you'll drive, I'll go. If you'll drive, I'll go.
Hold on. But Tim, how long was that drive to Rhode Island with Paul?
It wasn't quite all that long. It wasn't the 12 hours. It was close though. But for
Was it
me,
the company?
yeah, for me,
Was it the terror?
in college, I used to drive from here in the Bay Area down to Phoenix a couple times a year, and that's a 13-hour drive, and that's just to the next state. So,
Well,
Wow.
to be fair, you can start driving in one state, one side of Texas, and not reach the other side in 12 hours.
That is true. Yep. And California is a big state too. North.
Oh
south.
yeah.
north to south is quite long. The shortest, if I want to go to Nevada, it's only 3 hours, I think, just about 3 or 4 hours.
Larry, you there, Larry? Oh, wait, I was
Yeah,
thinking
here.
of Paul. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Paul, who said he might join us.
Okay, no problem.
That's okay. But you've been a little active, Larry.
Yeah. I've been still kind of playing with the high res stuff.
Yeah.
Because different people who've come up with, had put it the WRX, which was interesting. I'm trying to figure out how to use HRG, but it's, again, because I'm not really a programmer per se, so I like building stuff. So I mean, made lots of projects over the years, so but I haven't got too much else going. I mean, keep trying to find stuff for myself to keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm retired,
Mm-hmm.
like some of the other guys on there. So, but no, that's about it right now. I mean, fascinated by some of the stuff that guys come up with. I mean, the high, for 2016, although I never had one, never touched one, only seen pictures of it, so, but I like it. ZX81, just like Adam does, because it's simpler, it's black and white,
Mm-hmm.
the color stuff, I've seen some where they colored some high resolution graphics for the 81, and said, I don't know, just didn't do anything for me, so I like it in black and white. It's terrible, isn't it?
Nothing wrong with that.
It's fun to play with, but no, I wish I had something else more going on, but not at the moment. My, last meeting I showed my 8K, I call it NVM, but I didn't have the battery backup built into it. And I don't know why it worked the first couple of times when it's plugged right in the back of the 81. But later, I try to use it again later, and get this, it's still working, but because there's nothing wrong with it. I've tested it, but with high resolution graphics, it has this problem. I hooked my little 8K RAM, my static RAM, on an extender cable I had built years ago, and it seemed to work better. I said, what's the difference between now and before? You know, it's like the early days with that ZX Westbeat. I liked the video output it had, but I had so much problem. One day it worked great. Next day it would sort of work okay. Then it would use, you know, how stuff like, so what am I doing differently? You know, how stuff is like, I didn't change anything. I haven't really touched anything, but stuff changes the way it reacts.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's just because of power issues or what it is. I haven't resolved any of that. So,
well, so yeah, actually, Larry, what are you using for power?
Right now, I'm actually overkill. Actually, I got like a 10 amp power supply running through a 338 just with voltage regulator.
Oh,
just a regulator drops it from, takes 19 volts in and drops it down to 9.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should be pretty clean, you know, steady. You know, they had to worry about overloading anything. But I think it's 10 amp. I forgot how many amp power supply I've got.
And what are you using on the motherboard for a regulator?
Just a 5 volt. I tried to find those 5 volt those
like the Traco or the Rayan,
but I haven't been able to find a 5 volt one. I find 12 volt ones, and they seem, when you do find one, they're out of stock. So
yeah,
it would be nice to get rid of that heat sink.
yeah. I swapped out that for a, you know, whatever, one of those modern devices a few years back, and it's really nice, you know, and that it can power as much as you want to hang off the bus. But if you're still running off that 7805, you might be running into some power challenges.
I mean, well, I mean, that chip I got is up to date, you know, a new, you know, 8K static RAM
device.
chip, so it could be very low power, you know. And if it can standby power with a 3.3 volts, you know, those what 2332s where the batteries are.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, which I haven't done yet. So
okay.
But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for another extender board. I had made one. I showed it last time or time before. I showed the extender I had made back in the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, it worked fine, but it's only like a 44 pin connector, and there's 4 of them. And you know, like, what's his name? Jeff had there what the extender for his 2068. Because what was his name? Newfell.
Stuart?
Yeah, he used to have he had an extender board, you know, years ago. You could plug modules into it. You can do your experimenting, but you know, I mean, it'd be nice if you get some of that stuff where you could, you know, get it made again.
We should teach you the ways of easy EDA. It's
I've
very
tried the EDA, and I asked you last time what were you using, and I haven't tried it since then because I had a hard time getting KiCad. I've tried them both.
Right.
Attached the components, the wires. It's like, what is it? There's like off a half a spot between the 2 dots. It's like it won't attach. Easy EDA I haven't played with much yet. I'd like to make, you know, because it's nice to have these nice printed boards. They look so pretty, and you don't have to worry about wires falling off. And
yeah,
you know, exactly. You know, when you build stuff as I have, you know.
And you know what, Larry, I have to admit, I have not built anything like on a breadboard or, you know, any kind of flying wires in several years. You know, I just put the circuit up in easy EDA and run off a circuit board, and you know, I'm perfectly fine waiting 2 weeks and paying $20 rather than doing a bunch of flying wires.
Yeah, it's true. I agree, because you don't make, you know, as long as you check and make sure there's no connection issues, because flying wires you can screw up.
Yep.
You know, but who makes your boards for you? Who you send them off to?
JLC PCB.
Okay, you use GLC. Okay.
Yeah, they're hooked up with easy EDA, so you can order directly from the software, which is what I do.
So the boards cost you 20. How much it cost you again?
It's the $20 is actually the shipping. I just ordered some boards today. It was 5 boards. And there was like some sort of coupon going on for a couple days now.
Oh, okay.
The shipping was $20.50. The coupon was $8. I actually paid $19.50 for five boards that'll get here in 2-3 weeks.
So their boards are really cheap. I mean,
them boards are really cheap.
Yeah, I mean it's nice. I mean, I ain't fussing about that at all. It's nice.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been wanting to do is make a new keyboard because I showed my old keyboard I had made back in the early 80s with big hunky keyboard, and
Yeah.
making something much smaller because it's kind of awkward. I got it sitting on top of an old computer here, half leaning over it, and it's propped up and secure so it doesn't fall off. And I kind of it's kind of rude and crude, but it works. When I'm trying to run it on the real stuff instead of the emulator.
Ingo can't make it tonight because he's got a job he has to work on, and he's driving to it right now. He called me earlier. But the next time he's on, we'll get him to show his keyboard and updates, on his project, because he's done exactly that. He's designed a new keyboard for the 1000. He did a really cool job. It looks really awesome. It's on his website, and I can look up that URL and put it in the chat in a few minutes. But he's got that really nice. He did a great job. It looks fantastic, and that might work for you, Larry.
Yeah, I saw one he demonstrated at one time.
Yeah,
when it was some time back, and it looks really nice.
Yeah,
and
I bet if you ask him nice, he'd send you some boards. Here I am committing him, to doing such a thing, but what the heck?
He's not here. You can say anything you want, David.
That's
Anything
right. Exactly. Cool. All right.
Okay, yeah, because I could do that. I mean, I say kind of neaten things up because I'm getting tired of this stuff hanging over here, stuff hanging over there. I mean, I like trying breadboard first to see if I like it or not.
Oh, well,
if it's going to fly or not. No sense going to make it a board because I've made several circuit boards by hand recently, but not for the computer. For some simple circuits, I mean, I got drafting aids and press rub down stuff from the 80s.
Wow.
It's still good shape. And I actually made it, it's fairly simple board. I just took the board and I just kind of measure, okay, that line should be this long compared to the drawing that whoever put it in the magazine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, I messed up a couple places. But hey, that's what jumper wires for. Solder them on and
I was going to ask you, Larry, were you able to find on my site other articles by Wilf Richter about the WRX stuff?
I found a few. I've looked through. I spent a lot of time digging through those publications, searching. I've downloaded a lot of them, but it's easier to search on through yours where you got it set up. For some, I did find one thing you'd miss, but that's okay. Hey, I don't see how you did all that. That has had a consuming task of putting all those articles and references, doing the stuff you got to do, but the stuff that we can't see, your links. So,
yeah, there's a little bit of work. I'm going to see if I can. Okay, good. I'm going to share my screen real quick and show you. There it is. Okay. So since we know it's Wilf, the way that I would go about do this is go to community and go to people, and then just search on the page for his name. He's got a unique.
I forgot about it. I have seen that page before. I just forgot about it. Yeah, okay.
And then click on his name, and you'll see that high-res extended basic is one of the things, but there's multiple articles he's written about, and this is the including several about the WRX stuff. I wonder if a search for WRX would be productive as well.
And who's got the highest article count on that one page?
I think it may be Tim Swenson. Let's go back.
Yeah,
who's got the? Let's see what the old Tim. 208, Tim. I think you
Oh,
are
that's
on the
pretty good.
leaderboard.
I think, David, you added me back there a little while ago, which is pretty impressive. Like, I think I have 1 or 2.
You are.
Yeah. I was like, look at that.
There you go. You're.
How many do I have?
Well, okay, so you got 2 articles, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
I started doing is adding our videos
Oh,
because
okay.
our meeting recordings, because someone pointed out that you know, it's a little hard to navigate on YouTube, and from here it would make sense actually. So I'll just pop over there. Remember we took that screen capture a few
Sure.
weeks back? There it is. Okay. And so here's the meeting recordings. I'm a little behind, as you can see. April 3rd is the most recent one listed here. And you know, as I remember to add people to the member list, I add people to the members list. Basically, if you show up to a Zoom meeting, like, you're a member. That's it.
Oh, look at that. That's cool.
See, Jeff Burrell. And you know what? We'll take a little side trip. Jeff has been working with this FPGA stuff for a really long time. He wrote some articles that appeared in Sir Clive Alive back in the 90s, and he was active in the Yahoo group with the exact same sort of ideas. Anyway, Larry, yeah, look,
Okay, yeah.
and look for let me go back. I'll just search for Jeff or Will.
Yeah, I had come across that one day, and you know, you forget stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that was there because because you know, searching can be, you know, tedious.
Yep.
You know how when you go looking for stuff, it's like, oh man, you just, you know, on Google, it seems like you just keep seeing the same stuff over and over, or Bing or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So
and if you're looking for hardware projects, Larry, go to the page for the 1000 and go to articles about the 1000.
And then okay,
and then there's a list of hardware projects that will keep you busy for the next 15 minutes.
At least, just trying to see what's just a general gist. Yeah, that's nice. Very good.
Yeah, there's a few listed here. I mean, there's some repetition, of course, right?
Yeah, that's bound to happen. Yeah,
but,
I mean, I don't know how you couldn't.
Right. But there's a couple here about adding sound to your 1000. I don't think that you're going to be able to get a Polaroid P100 Polopulse power pack for your 1000 anymore, though, because those were from the Polaroid SX70, which was long since discontinued.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
But you know, there's still some options here of things that you could investigate. 64K internal non-volatile RAM upgrade, you know, joysticks in case you want to play video games.
Yeah, I'm looking at joysticks. I've been trying to find. There was on GitHub, I think it is. There was somebody who apparently designed one, but there's just not enough information there to figure out how to do it. Well, although I saw one for Spectrum.
Yep.
I believe it was. It had a adjustable switch you could set for different settings, depending on what sets of keys you wanted to use.
Yeah, there was a really nice little device for the Spectrum that plugged into the back, and it had all these little jumpers, and you could, you know, set the jumpers based on what game what the game you were playing expected, whether it was, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, the arrow keys on those numbers, or if it was like, say, Q and W and P and O or whatever. There's a whole bunch of, you know, it seemed like everybody had their own idea of what should control, you know, before the Spectrum got a real joystick port.
Oh, okay. Now this one I'm referring to actually had a little switch. Probably had maybe 10 positions.
Okay.
On the board. You know, it was just one big chip, I think, maybe a couple little chips and a switch. I found it, and then I couldn't find it again. So,
okay.
I mean, I hate when you find something the first time and then you go back to look for it again. It's like,
can't find it.
Where did it go?
Yep.
I know we've all been there a few times. So,
yeah.
You know, David, you're looking at the page currently for the magazines and the newsletters and such, which brings me something I want to talk about, actually, if we have a second. Do you mind if I ask?
Well, And let me just
Go
show you something real quick, because
Okay.
the reason I'm bringing this up is I wanted to show you this feature that I added over the weekend.
Oh,
And please don't criticize my JavaScript skills. I cribbed this from some other site and it's kind of brute force. But one of the things that I did early on to try to help you as you're looking at this long list of articles that were published in Sync magazine, right, is I added these little chips over on the right hand side to indicate whether it was a type in program and what the platform was, right?
Yeah, it's very
So
nice.
I found a bit of JavaScript code that will let you filter by this, right? So if you are looking for something just about the 2068, you click on that and it will narrow this list down to just things that have been tagged with the 2068.
Nice, nice.
This is only one of these little chips at a time, right? So if I switch to type in programs, it's going to show you all the type in programs and not, just the ones for the 2068. Or if you click on hardware projects, the same sort of thing. But it is at least, some kind of improvement. I'll get to the point where I can make it multi-select, but yeah.
Great.
Okay, Adam, fire away.
hold on. Let me get my speaker back on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, like, do you think is the best way? I'm not sure how it's not through your site, but the best way to present articles and just like updates that you upload. Like, I know you like wrote a list of like, just basically an email that, or excuse me, a post that you made to the group that said the magazines, not magazines, the newsletters and the books that you've scanned recently. And I think you were talking about this when I joined the meeting. I'm not sure what you covered exactly, but like there's so much material. I mean, even one update, I think you added like 27 books. I don't know if that's quite right, but it was some absurd number. Like, what is the best way for people like us to even absorb any of that?
So I would start here. This page you can get as an RSS. You can, if you use RSS feeders or RSS to email or something like that. This page updates whenever I up, and there's a caveat to whenever I update, but I do all my work on a local instance of WordPress running on my home computer, and then I run this export process and upload it to the web. These are all actually just flat HTML files. But this page shows when the thing was originally added to the website, and then when it was updated. And in this case, for this computerware software letter, this was added and on one day, and I did my export the next day. But you see, I added a bunch of references to these Larkin disk manuals that are on archive, and I did some updates to, like, so this was originally October of 2020, and for whatever reason I updated it over the weekend. So this is probably the short and easiest way to see what kind of changes, and this will probably update about once a week.
Okay, and that's just the what's new page. I mean, so I can just check that.
It's what's new or what's updated.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
But that's actually a little less than my question. My question is, even like if okay, so now there it is. I see everything what's new. How do I absorb 1/10 of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if you want 1/10, if you want 1/10, go over to, sorry, you got to move this controller. Here we go.
And I think it's great. It's just so much information, and it's like all of a sudden it just appears, and I'm like, what do I look at first?
What do you look at? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if you go to this page, this will, in most cases, give you by default what is truly new. Okay. And so for instance, you can see by these dates here, June 3rd, when I did those, uploaded those things, and then May 28th or so. And I say, and here's those books you were talking about, Adam.
Yeah, lots of books, lots of books.
Lots of books. Oops. That was so this will tell you about 80% of what's new. The one thing that frustrates me about archive.org is if you add something to an existing collection. And a good example is maybe this JRC software. If I'll click through to this, and you see it says there's nothing here in theory, but if you click on show all, you can see because they're zip files. If I come across another piece of software from John Coffey, that's the John Richard Coffey, JRC. If I come across another piece of software from him, I will add it to this collection. But the problem is that the archive does not see that as new, so it doesn't mark this as having been updated. So
touched, basically.
Yeah. And so you can get an RSS feed from this page as well, and it'll just pop up in your feeds, and it will literally be just the things that are truly and entirely new, which is less. If that helps. Does less help?
Yeah. Well, even just looking at the books, I mean, obviously you can't look at all those books and absorb even one of them in any short amount of time. So yeah. Which also brings up another point, like how much of that software from some of those books is archived? Like that's what I thought.
Practically none. Yeah. It just hasn't been typed in.
I mean, some of it is like very elementary level, and like unless someone's like learning from the very basic and they decide to start with that book, that stuff probably won't ever be typed in because it's so primary. But some of it's really interesting. And if somewhere down the road, if there was some way to make it so there was a group effort to type in, say, one program per person, it could be done in a short amount of time.
Well, and there's just so many programs, like from Sync or from, SyncWare News or
even the magazines aren't done.
I'm sorry?
Even the magazines? The Sync is done, right?
So SyncWare News is parts of SyncWare News are an exception because Paul, had some of the last editor of SyncWare News brought Paul this box full of cassette tapes, and these are the cassette tapes that have been submitted to to the magazine for publication. And I'm having great success in recovering stuff from those. So, and Jeff can attest, that 64 column basic program works. And so now I've attached the record that I created, this the cassette information, I've attached it to the article. So, if you go to that article now on the website, you'll see, oh, I can go download the program from archive.org. But that's, again, a tiny subset of everything that was published. And there are so many interesting programs out there. So many interesting programs that folks wrote in the magazines. I don't know. I think, it would be great if we could figure out a way to sort of split it up and chip away at it a little bit. That'd be really cool. So, anybody else want to jump in?
I want to volunteer John. If I just want to hear about his road trip to
John
to Albuquerque.
You were in Adam's neighborhood.
Yeah. I think I texted with Adam a little bit, and
Carl.
I had a telephone conversation with was it Carl?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I had a good conversation with him. He was willing to come meet me at a pizza joint in front of the hotel I was at, but I think by the time I got back to the hotel, maybe the restaurant was closed anyway. So it didn't work out. And my wife didn't want me meeting that late at night with somebody. So
especially with Carl.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, but yeah, those people in Albuquerque are fine people. I plan to go back in 2 years and spend a little bit more time. Maybe there's a mountain there. Apparently, there's some trails on a mountain. Maybe there's
all around us. There's mountains everywhere around here.
and then there's a cable car that takes you up.
Oh yeah, Sandia tram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, where the plan is that the younger son, the younger nephew is graduating from high school, hopefully in 2 years, so we can go back and do it again, if we can afford to do it again. So yeah.
Yeah, call ahead at this time and give us a little bit more notice. And I only found out like you were going to be here like I think a day before I called you or something, or a day of, and you were leaving the next morning. So I was like, I can't do it. But Carl was barely able to and just didn't work out.
Yeah.
You could have had extended your club membership by one. Just for
right. Hey, that's 25% at least or something, maybe more. I don't know the math.
But I did find a Sinclair gas station, so.
Yeah, there's a couple out there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where they are. You took pictures of them. I don't know where they are.
Yeah. They're somewhere between, I guess, Albuquerque and Dallas Fort Worth, maybe, or was it after we left Dallas Fort Worth? It might have been after we left Dallas Fort Worth. We were talking about how can you consume all this information?
Yeah, if you know a special trick.
So if you could convert it to audio and listen to it while you sleep, but I tried that and it doesn't work. I'm dyslexic and I got my my books at school, high school, on cassette tape.
Oh.
And I didn't really have time to listen to the history, and I didn't really like history when I was a child. So I tried to listen to it while I slept, but it just didn't help.
Hey, Bob, are you there?
Yes.
I have a new person, Bob.
Yeah.
Or actually, are you new? Have you joined us before, Bob? Or is this
I think I came to one meeting earlier.
Okay. So tell us what your connection is. How did you get in, and not into the meeting, but
Well, the secret letter arrived.
yeah, right. We'll teach you the handshake next.
No, I had a ZX81 when I was a kid, so I'd gotten one off eBay, and it obviously didn't work. So I was fixing it, and in the course of fixing it, I needed to replace the keyboard, and I stumbled on Ingo's blog.
Yeah.
With his keyboard project. So I posted a comment on his blog asking about the keycaps that he was designing to have printed. And I think he said those didn't work out, but it turns out I'd found a different YouTube channel. I think it's called Nimble Sloth. The guy had done some Adobe Illustrator files with all the ZX81 keys.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a set of those made at WASD Keyboards, and I wanted to learn how to do circuit boards, so I did a circuit board to hold all the keys and basically replaced the ZX81 keyboard with an extra one, more or less exactly like what Ingo did, and it worked. So in the course of talking back and forth with Ingo, he had
So Bob, the system worked, but your keyboard didn't work. Is that what it was?
Well, it worked, but I didn't have a TV that could display RF modulated. So the first thing was the composite video mod.
Yeah.
And then that worked, but then the keyboard was dead.
That's not unusual.
And I didn't want to get another membrane one. I'm not a purist about keeping it original. If you see my composite mod, it's literally just transistor lead soldered floating in space.
Yeah, the classic. So do you have did you get your keyboard assembled yet, or?
It is, and it works. It's just the ZX81's out of the case, just on a table, connected by a ribbon cable. I think my ultimate plan when I was working on the composite mod, what I really enjoyed was hooking up the oscilloscope and seeing what was happening on the chips. So my plan is, I think this is another copy of some stuff Ingo's done, but he's 3D printing a case. I was gonna laser cut an acrylic case with holes and etch in it what the pin designations are, so that I hopefully can drop my probes down in onto the pin without risking hitting something else.
Shorting it out.
Yeah.
I mentioned shorting it out because someone did that recently with a device, but I won't name any names.
It would be easy to do.
It would be very easy to do. Yes, you might want to think about how you can double up the thickness or something in order to create a bit of a guide.
Yeah, they make pins that I guess people use for testing circuit boards, but they're very expensive.
Pogo pins. Yeah.
Those I knew that they existed, but then when I looked at what they cost, I can buy another ZX81 for not very much on eBay.
Right.
The price of 3 or 4 pins.
So how did your keys come out? What did you get them printed on like a gray or white key?
I had them printed on a gray, and they're very close to what the I guess the UK version of the keyboard is.
Okay.
It's rub out instead of delete,
for
example.
New line.
And it was fun because I'd only done a few circuit boards, so this was the largest circuit board, and I got it from JLC PCB, and it was like yours. It was $5 for the boards and $15 for shipping. And but it worked, and just basically desoldered the ribbon cable connectors and just put straight pin headers on so that I could run ribbon cable to it.
Cool. Well, obviously you're welcome here.
Type in a program, Bob. Type in a program.
Well, that is the price of admission. Yes, we'll assign you a program.
The better keyboard doesn't make you any faster, because the keyboard's not the limiting factor. It actually makes it worse, because it's very easy to type characters faster than the Z80 is picking them up.
Can go, yeah. Well, there's a sort of another path for typing in programs, and that is you can type them into a text editor and run it through
ZMake Basic.
ZMake Base, which will turn it into, I know it works for the 2060. Does it work for the ZX81?
I don't use it. Brian uses it.
That's right. You're the
I'm hardcore.
You're the hardcore guy.
I'm dumbcore, really, if you ask me.
Well, I think ZMake Base does work for the ZX81, but also ZX Text to P does also creates a .p file for the ZX81. I use ZX Text to P forever. Don't use original hardware, so converting from that to a WAV file to get to the hardware, don't know. But you guys probably know about that more than I.
Yeah, there's probably but you can put a P file onto one of those little Arduino tape emulators, I think, like the Ardu
or the back bit too.
Or the back bit, yes. And then load them super quick. Or when the Z Expand, the very rare Z Expand, shows up on like Sell My Retro or eBay, those things are.
David, will you explain what that is to me? Because Ryan and I were talking about that, like looking at the emulations and things like that. There are so many things that are emulated, and I think it's Fuse that like I've never heard of, that were I think maybe made in the 90s and the early 2000s that are emulated, but like
but no,
can't find any information about them.
Z Expand is this hardware device that goes on the back of your 1000, kind of like a back bit. It maps its own version of the ROM in and extends the BASIC a little bit to give it some DOS-y commands, so you can then load stuff from SD cards. It also has, I want to say it has an AY38910 or equivalent built in. It was a long time ago that was an option, but I think it's included on all of them now. I'm not entirely positive.
I think it simulates the Zon X81 sound device.
Okay, that makes sense. So you get sound, you get SD card, load and save. I know there's some other features and I've never explored them, but most folks get it for the fact that, load and save from SD cards, put as many P files as you want on the SD card.
Oh, there's one.
What's that?
Yep.
Joe's got one.
Oh, Joe's got one. Okay.
Yep.
Do you need my address, Joe?
This is the one I just got.
Okay. And so there's
yeah,
That's new to you, or that's new? That's newly made or new to you?
It's new actually. Somebody purchased a couple of them and sold one on eBay. I think it came from Poland. This one has the name of Charlie Robson.
Yep.
5th edition.
Charlie's the person who designed this thing.
Yeah.
So what's the 9-pin connector on the end?
The 9-pin is the joystick.
Joystick, okay.
Right, and it has audio out on the side. Of course, the SD card, and it works with every modified ZX81 that I have so far. It's worked 100%. I also recently got the back bit because I missed out when everybody else got their back bits. I was like, I think she made up 6 of them, and I was number 7. So wow. I was trying to order it.
It's so small.
But that's what I'm having trouble with. I can't get it to work with about half the machines I own.
Really? I only have the one, so.
Yeah, but the machines that I have different composite mods. They have different RAM upgrades on the boards, on the motherboards themselves.
Well, Ryan had some problem with his, like when he'd plug it in, he would get static basically on the screen. You'd be able to see the screen, but do you have that problem? I'm curious.
No, I usually just get a blank screen that's completely crashed. And I just need to get the boards over to the oscilloscope and see what's going on. But yeah, I've had a whole lot more luck with the Z-Expand than the back bit. And it is kind of fun to play a video game on my ZX81 and actually have sound and a real joystick. So yeah.
Well, how many games support sound on the ZX81?
I've found 2 so far. But
okay.
I don't suppose a whole lot.
Does ZX-Expand also do the chroma?
But no
video. It's just programs and sound and a joystick.
Tim, don't go crazy. Don't go crazy over there.
And Joe, I can tell what you're doing with that thing. I'm gonna spotlight you real quick again.
Okay.
You want to show? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me pull out. All right.
Well, so that's an old. Is that aluminum or is that 3D printed?
No, that's 3D printed.
Okay.
It's very much like the
Memotech.
Yeah, Memotech.
Yeah.
Cartridges. And in fact, I want to steal this because I have a Memotech that's missing the side panel.
Nice.
I want to steal that print, but yeah, that's if you can see that.
So one of these devices is the 40-pin one next to the jack. Is that the sound chip?
Yes, that's the AY3-8910.
Okay, and then the 40-pin device at the top is probably a microchip microcontroller.
It's a PIC of some kind.
Yeah.
18LF 4525.
Yeah. Okay. What's the thing to the left of that? Is that RAM?
That's RAM.
Okay.
RAM is over here, and this one is
probably a gal.
Yeah, it's a gal.
Okay. And then there's a CPLD, I think, is
the
thing
right
on the
there.
surface. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of glue going on in there.
Oh yeah. There's a lot going on there. I'd like to explore it a little bit more, but I haven't found a really good article on it yet.
Well, and it's, Charlie did all the work, and he's not, to my knowledge, made that information, available to the public at large. And so that's part of the challenge, is that when he finds time and et cetera, is when they show up on Semi Retro or eBay. Yeah.
So David, when did they first appear?
A few years back. I think I got mine 3 or 4 years
Oh,
ago.
okay. I
And
thought they dated back to the 90s for some reason. Okay, so not that
no,
long.
No, I remember seeing like 2016
yeah, yeah,
first thing, and I missed out on it then. And yeah, so
yeah,
I've been wanting one for a while.
yeah. It's a nice device. But the backbit does seem to be also, you know, a good alternative. But backbit's load only, right, Adam?
So far, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. I think it has some. I mean, Ryan and I have found workarounds to be able to get around some issues we've had loading stuff, but
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I think it has some, and that actually reminds me of like what's come up on the group about loading just cart images like CRT files.
Yeah.
In like from EPROMs just onto cartridges that people have, like your cartridge, remember? And I brought this up like because there's different kinds of LROS and AROS files
Yeah.
and it's, you know, it's probably not really worth exploring right here, right now, but it's a subject that's pretty deep once you start like diving in. It's not as simple as it first appears, I think, to me.
Really, really complicated. And, you know, on the groups list, there was a bunch of activity a year ago. Is that about right, Jeff? And Jeff did a lot of work, even came into the Python world and wrote this really cool program where it'll turn your basic program into a cart ready image. And that's, you know, it's a pretty amazing thing because there's a lot of craziness that you have to do, in my opinion. And yeah, if your heart's desire is to make a cartridge out of a basic program, then go to the groups .io list and look for Jeff's code. Jeff, do you have your stuff up on GitHub, or is it just in the group?
Just in the group.
Okay. And does that, I remember, you know, vaguely some chatter. Does that only work for basic programs? Does it work for anything else? Was it?
I think that was only for basic programs. That was the question at the time.
Okay. And so if you had a basic program that also had machine code, probably a good solution would be to put the machine code into data statements and poke the thing, you know, once it's running.
Yeah, the problem is that basic normally runs down in around 26,000.
Yeah.
And when you move all that up to 32,000, any of your machine code is all of its addresses are going to be hosed
In the wrong place. Yeah. It's a seriously non-trivial task.
I mean, even just to get, like, if you're like myself, when I was messing around with it, with the cartridge that you make, David, like just getting the already created doc files to work, like you have to start looking at the header file of the doc file to figure out how to burn it to an EEPROM, then move jumpers around, and like it just it's not as easy as like just burning an EEPROM and bam, it working.
And that was the issue that person who posted on the list was having. You know, there's some of the images he was working with worked okay,
will work that way,
on that cartridge that he had, but some of them were somebody pointed out that they were AROS, which meant that they run in the basic memory space starting at 32K, and so there's like you said, Adam, jumpers and stuff.
And I didn't realize until this week, just a few days ago, that I think, is it Johnny Red Sites that all the information's about it? He said like he put the 0 and the 1 backwards. I was like, really? So in other words, all this time, there's another
I didn't realize it either. Yeah.
That's been up there for a long time.
That's been up there since the early 2000s, even later. So Ryan said the Series 1 doc files have more than one part, but not sure if the back bit is loading them correctly. Yeah, that's a thing. I mean, not having a back bit, I couldn't tell you. Did you hook the back bit up to your 2068, Adam?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want, I can.
So that's how.
Yeah. I can send it to you, and you can try it out if you want to. If you don't have access to one.
I thanks to John and Paul and other folks, Paul who's not here, and both Pauls who are not here today. I have piles and piles of stuff to work through. Literally behind me, there's a pile of banker's boxes that's 5 boxes tall.
You're talking about things for scanning
Or tapes or whatever. Yeah.
The tapes take forever. Like in the Astrocade world, like I wouldn't say I gave up, but I gave up. And so there was someone else who was willing to step forward, because it's working with the tapes can be very, very time consuming.
Well, and Fuse. So there was 2 things that are working out well in that respect. One is that Fuse will load things that like TZX Tools has difficulty with, and a lot of programs had a built-in line at the end of the program. You would say go to 9999, for instance, and that would save the program out to tape. Like it would, and especially if it was a program that had a machine code portion, it would save both of those things out to tape. And a lot of folks, did that to their own programs. And it didn't really dawn on me, why they would do that, because you would see this printed in the magazine articles, like they, would have that thing. And, it didn't make any sense to me at the time. And now it does, because, instead of sitting down with 2 tape recorders and doing a tape, you're using, the machine to generate its own copy. And so Zebra software has a lot of that. Like when you bring up Zebra software, one of the first things it asks you is, do you want to make a backup copy of this? And I'm like, oh, yes, I do. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. Thank you very much. I'd like it in TZX and TAP, please. And it works. It's great. Fuse is really good in that respect, in that you can open a WAV file, load the stuff in from the WAV file, and then you close the thing and have it create the backup, and then you just save the backup as the two formats, and it's just so fast. It's so good to work with. So you'll see more of those things. Even games.
That's what I like, man. That's what I like.
And I say this, Dario's not here today. Dario is also in Argentina, and Dario is working on archiving Quicksilver games that had been ported to the 2068. And so those made their way, to Argentina, just like a bunch of 2068s did. There was a point in time in which Quicksilver set up an office in San Antonio, I think, Texas, and then Timex, left, and I think Quicksilver left as well. But there was a company called Knighted Computing in the Binghamton, New York area that imported a bunch of Quicksilver programs, and then they had somebody edit them so that they would work natively on the 2068. And I don't know if it was I think it's from Bob Swoger's collection, that there's a cassette tray box full of just Quicksilver games. So one day you will be able to play Tomahawk on your 2068, whatever Tomahawk is, some kind of plate thing, maybe involving helicopters. I don't know.
You brought that up with the Bob Swoger, and John uploaded, not to YouTube, but I think 8 or 9 videos he shared from the Dallas Fort Worth computer show, and I haven't yet to watch them because but this is from 11 years ago. Did you not download those? Yeah.
I saw them. So what have you said you haven't had a chance to look at them yet?
Well, I know what they are, but John is like, he's here. He can talk about them a little better than I can.
Yeah, John, tell us what you uploaded, because.
Oh, well, he has this database of sorts of his different boxes of disk.
Yeah.
And he's got like 20 boxes of disk. And then not only is it what box the disk is in, but the disks are even in a certain order within the box. And the database tells him how to locate the program that he's looking for to load into his floppy drive so that he can run it.
Yeah.
So part of Logical is this database of all the programs that he's got on all these different disks.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And he's got some strange ability to like press the M key or something and have it go into Spectrum mode and load and run Spectrum programs using the Spectrum ROM in the ROM cartridge. I want to say the Larkin DOS isn't in the ROM cartridge, but I'm not sure. I think the Spectrum ROM is in the ROM cartridge.
Well, so the Larkin cartridge had a socket for the Larkin ROM, but it also had a spare socket. And you could put a Spectrum ROM in there, or you could put an OS64 ROM in there, or anything else. And I'm not entirely sure, how you switched between one and the other, but Larkin's disk system did work with the Spectrum ROM in the 2068.
Yeah, and in this video, Bob shows you how to do it.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll have to go grab those and check those out.
It's probably an hour worth of video.
Yeah, it's about an hour, yeah.
Okay.
The camera kept shutting off and my wife had to keep restarting it.
And this was how long ago, John?
2011 at the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest in Lombard, Illinois, which is the Chicagoland area.
Okay. Okay.
In the Heron Point building, in the basement of the Heron Point building, close to the elevator, in the lunchroom of the Heron Point building in the basement, close to the elevator. You can hear people running around and you can hear the elevator go ding. And I think you can hear this wind, and I'm not sure what the wind is, but it might be the elevator shaft as the elevators are working up and down or something. If you listen carefully, you can hear a lot's going on around us as we're filming this.
It sounds like those VCFs out there in your area really get the prime locations.
The Heron Point building was just the basement of a building. It wasn't very big, and we quickly outgrew it. And I think they didn't want us back anymore. And so it worked out well because we moved on to another place that was larger, and we quickly outgrew that. And so we've now moved to the Waterford Banquet, which is really large, and we've really outgrown that.
Wow.
But it's going to start to get real expensive to go to anything larger.
Yeah. This is for VCF Midwest. Not for the Glenside show.
Yeah, this is the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got all kinds of stuff. There was somebody from your group telling me about your website there last year. I haven't seen his face, but yeah, he told me about the website and so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know where we're going to move next. Parking has become a real problem. I had to park like maybe 3 blocks down just to get to the show last year. And it said I could only park for 2 hours. Oof. And so that kind of affected my time at the show. I went back on Sunday and I could get a parking space in the parking lot. So that worked out okay.
That's cool.
They're expanding into the basement this year. So we're going to have a little bit more room, but there's still not the parking we needed. And all the rooms in the hotel have been sold out already.
Oh my God.
So we're having to find another hotel for people to stay at. So I guess we've got to find something bigger.
Wow.
But they currently aren't charging admission or anything. And so they're just making money off the auction and donations, I think.
Oh boy. Okay.
So if they go to something bigger, they They might have to start charging admission or something, or sell more T-shirts.
Cool. Hey, Tim, you were gonna say something when we were joking around about Tomahawk.
Oh, just as far as I remember, it's a helicopter simulator. I think something like an Apache type style.
Okay. Okay. Well, if that's your thing, one day you two can run Tomahawk.
I never liked flight
2068.
simulators. They're quite horrible. Flight simulators have always been bad. Even good ones aren't anywhere near as good as you really need for flight simulators. I mean, I've been in professional flight simulators, and they're still a little worried, not great. Good for instrument, but that's about it.
Well, maybe that's what this. I don't know. I've not even looked at it. And I don't have a joystick connected to my Mac, so I have no earthly idea. I will not be able to play it. Adam will have to test run it.
I'll try it. What the heck,
Yeah.
I tried playing Elite, a couple of months ago on the Spectrum, and that's like a flight sim in space, and with of course space trading and things like that. And my buddy was here, and he played it on the C64, and we did get it to work, and we played it, and I was actually amazed that like a little 48K Spectrum was able to do what it was doing. It was actually kind of blowing my mind, but it was not easy, and it has a keyboard overlay that what are there 48Ks in the 2068?
42.
42. Anyway, like I would say 3/4 of them are used, something like that. And
Okay.
like I didn't have the overlay. I had the manual printed out. Oh, come on, it's difficult, but amazing. Like in 1985 or whatever that it was available.
Yeah.
All right. There's another show that y'all ought to know about. It's called Tandy Assembly, and they a lot of them are using the Z80. So I would think that they would allow the Sinclair people, a few, not maybe too many, but a few Sinclair people to come. If they
Not David, that's for sure. Not David.
Well, they'll let a few of y'all in, but not too many.
Well, I don't think you want to overwhelm them and make up 50% of the show, but to have a little bit of other Sinclair people. I mean, yeah, Sinclair people would probably be fine.
Yeah, that's funny.
So tell me, David, are you Riff or Raff?
Am I Riff or Raff? Right.
I think it's both.
Yeah, a little bit. Depends on which day you get me. I'm Hoy and Paloy.
I have a question. Willie, I see that you're here. I don't know if you can hear me. If you can, I'd like you to talk about the pictures you uploaded this last few days ago of your disk system. You there?
For the JLO?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
What questions do you guys have?
Well, so Willie, when you first bought your system, when was that?
I was late 80, I think 87, something like
that. And so both John Oliger and Larry Kenny, was Airco still around at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so all three of the big, Adam calls them DIY, but independent
DIY,
disk system vendors were around, right?
Yeah. In fact, there was a couple of people in our group, and one of them had an Airco system, or however you call it, for pronouncing. And he demonstrated it for everybody a few times, and it was okay, but the structure for doing the same thing that you do with the JLO to me was a lot more complicated. There was a lot more text and things you had to put on the string to get it to do the same thing, where John's system is pretty straightforward and uses a lot of the tokens that's already in the 2068. So to me, it was a real easy system to pick up. Plus, he only lived about 15 minutes from me at the time, so I spent a lot of time in his basement learning about all this stuff. And, it was pretty neat. I was able to do some, beta testing for him and stuff like that, or just, which is really neat. But
what did you beta test? That makes me curious just in itself.
He before he would do an update, and he only did like 4 updates to the ROM, I believe, the safe basic they call it or whatever. I mean, man, this guy he would burn it to the ground before he would release something because he didn't like any kind of bugs or anything like that. And so, I mean, he really went through his stuff. And then if you ever found one and reported it to him, I mean, he was all over it. It's like he just couldn't stand to have his software have a bug somewhere. So it was amazing how fast something would get fixed. And a lot of times people didn't even know it existed to begin with. But in some cases, the ones that did find it or whatever, if they let him know, I mean, he'd dive right in and fix it right away and send them an update or whatever. So as far as that goes, that was the user friendly part of the system. Like I say, it's pretty straightforward. You don't have a lot of open and close commands and all this other stuff like I see on the Larkin system. I personally never used the Larkin system, but Neil, who used to join us, I haven't talked to him in several months, but he uses a Larkin system and a JLO, but he likes the Larkin. I guess that's kind of what he got used to back in the day, but he still uses both systems. And the neat thing about John's system is you can actually take the cartridge ROM that has the DOS portion of it, or whatever you want to call it, that operating system for the Larkin, and actually run the JLO drives with that cartridge if you know all the commands and that kind of stuff. It actually lets you access the drives, and you can run with the Larkin command.
Okay.
I'm going to try and play that just for curiosity. I have no desire to go to a Larkin system, but now that you've posted all this information, I figured I'd read some of it, and because I've actually have one of those cartridge ROMs for a Larkin. I think it's version 3 of their 3L, I think it is, of their latest release for the Larkin system. And then there's some RAM switching and things like that you can do with that little cartridge from Larkins. That, like I say, I don't know a whole lot about it. Neil knows that stuff a lot better than I do, but now that we've got plenty of stuff to read, maybe I'll play with it and see what it does just for curiosity. But I mean, I really like the John Oliger stuff because it's just so easy to use, and I like the built-in printer interface that it has. Basically he made a little Centronics printer interface card, but all the command and software and stuff like that for multiple
printers is in the ROM, right?
Yeah, it was all built into it. So I mean, literally, I just have to put a backslash in before my prints or my L list or whatever, and everything goes directly to the Centronics. And you can also do scene graphics and stuff like that to your Centronics if you select the right printer driver. So it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of thought went into it when he put all that together. So
Willie, just for the sake of argument, and letting people know a little bit, the Larkin command structure requires typing rand user 100 and then whatever your command is, and once you've initialized it in a certain way, you can instead use print number 4 and then your commands. But as you were saying with Oliger, I think he leveraged the same kind of mechanism that the interface 1 and the Zebra system, the Portuguese, the FDD 3 and 3000 system used with the asterisks, where you would type in load asterisk whatever, and that would be the signal to load from disk, versus Ryan, it's using the reset 08 mechanism, versus with Larkin, I think you said it's a backslash. You type load and there's a backslash involved and it loads from the disk. Is that right?
Yeah, that pretty much in a nutshell. the JLO, he uses a / instead of an asterisk or any of that other stuff. But he uses all the tokens that's on the 2068. So load, merge, erase, all the commands that are already incorporated into the 2068. I just have to put a / in front of that, and what that does is it actually creates an error in the 2068. Triggers John's software and the DOS and the disk commands, but it does it in a way that it's just seamless. I mean, it's really pretty interesting and pretty fast on how it does it. So there's a lot less, I guess, text or whatever you have to type in to do things. Like for me, I've noticed on the, and like I say, I don't know a lot about the Larkin, but just what the little bit of playing around I have done, you've got to, number one, when you initialize a system, you got to load some stuff in there that actually loads into memory for the Larkin to even work.
Yes.
Then you have this structure that you have to use, like you were alluding to earlier, in order to just load a simple file. You've got to do all this stuff, and then finally you get to the part where you're loading the file. And the JLO was just so much easier because all I had to do was hit load, put a / in there, and I can, load code, screens, whatever. Basically, all the commands that you're used to doing in BASIC, you can do with his system with just adding that little character, / character. That was the neat part about it. It was very simple to use. And back when I first started using it, I absolutely knew nothing about it. So it was real easy to pick it up. And I like easy.
Well, and it was the sort of the complexity of the Larkin command structure that led to Bob writing that logic call as a menuing front end, basically for Larkin.
I did watch one of those videos. It was really interesting to see what he was doing with that. Like head in, or that inner head in part he put together. Which there's a program called DOSDEX that was written for the Oliger system. But basically, it's just a fancy catalog version, but it allows you to do, once you catalog a disk, it lists all that, but it allows you to move on, rename on, do some things that you don't have to type out. You just basically select it on the DOSDEX menu, and you can do it all that way. Very similar, not quite intuitive as some of the Larkin stuff, because he had a lot of cool commands in that interface that he had written for it, or whatever you want to call it, menu system or whatever, which to me would have made the system a whole lot easier to use without having to know all the other stuff up front. So
now you're talking about Bob's logic call.
Yeah. So I did see one or two of those YouTube videos that was flashing around out there. I don't even know how I think I got them from the website or something, but it was interesting to watch that and all the things he was doing with it. So
Willie, we can see you're teasing us with views of your 2068 system behind you. When you turn a little bit, we can see your system.
Yeah, I was playing around with the 64 column cartridge and seeing if some of the other programs I had been playing with would actually run in 64 column mode. And surprisingly, some do, some don't. So it's
But you can actually see like his disk drive hooked up back there and everything, I believe.
And a printer with like a parallel cable.
Pretty cool.
I like it. It works really well. But of course, I've got a bunch of stuff on the back of that you can't see. I've got the printer interface. You get both the boards for the JLO. Then there's a relay board on there. And some couple other things, plus a 2040 printer and a Centronics.
Oh yeah, I see the 2040 printer right there behind the. Is that a floppy drive that's sitting in front of it?
There's a floppy drive. I use 2 drive system. It has support 4, but I never seem to need 4 drives. So
yeah.
So that's a 3.5-inch floppy. Is that?
3.5. Yeah. When I first that was 5 1/4, and then I got away from those real quick because the 3.5 they got less space, and you don't have to have this monstrous power supply to run.
That's right.
I mean, the 3.5 are real easy to run. I can run 2 of those on a single, 2 amp power supply. So
You know, I was in Santa Fe earlier today, and we went to Meow Wolf, which is like this art exhibit, and they have one in Las Vegas now, Nevada, and stuff like. But anyway, they had this. It's all these art exhibits, and it's supposed to be like a. It doesn't matter what the point it is, but they have these 3.5-inch discs that are being used for art, all like stapled or glued, or I don't know how they're connected to the
Oh, really?
yeah. And so like there's a whole bunch of, and I hear this little kid, little 15-year-old going, "Are those floppy disks?" You know, and I was like, "Oh man, what does the world come to?" And the ceiling actually had CDs all over it, like they were yeah, it was pretty neat, pretty cool.
Were these all AOL discs, Adam?
I don't think they were.
Because you remember,
they were obviously the same thing. Discs. What else? There are many more Timex discs than AOL.
I'd have to find that exhibit. I might need a drive.
cheap source of 3.5s. Ryan asked in the chat if it would be possible to emulate the drive hardware for these systems, and you know, Alan says basically no, because the folks who are working on the emulator authors are mainly Spectrum focused, and they're not really aware of our stuff or how it works.
That's one thing about John's system. It works in Spectrum mode too, so
yeah,
that's kind of nice too. But I was hoping that all these SD guys and brains that are making these systems where we're going to have SD cards and stuff, which would be absolutely great, that they could follow that command structure that uses the tokens that's already in the 2068, which to me would be really cool, because that's what I'm used to using anyway. So I'm kind of spoiled there, but I just think everybody wants to kind of create their own little thing when you start talking about the SD cards and things like that. So
reinvent the wheel.
You know, I don't know if it's appropriate quite now, but we're getting toward the end of the meeting, and I wanted to bring up something that it's kind of fringe Timex related, but Timex related nonetheless. So a few meetings ago, we had the co-author kind of the Timex manual on, and he brought up the Kingston Trio, the band. I don't know if you all remember that, but unless you were present, no one probably knows what I'm talking about. But he was talking about like listening to the music in 1958, and Ryan happened to have one of their reel-to-reel tapes, and he just happened to have it next to him, and he just brought it out and said, "Look at this." Well, like 2 Saturdays ago, Ryan was in the neighborhood shopping, and he brought by, he's like, "Oh, I found this record like at a local yard sale." And I was like, "I thought of you." So I don't know if you can see what it is, but it's a Kingston Trio. It's their first 2 albums.
And it's for stereo.
Yeah. Oh yes, it's actually supposed to be mono, but they did something to it. And I was like, "Hey Ryan, how's it going? Cool, you brought me a record." And then we hung out and did Sinclair stuff, you know. So
well, so now that's what you'll listen to as you're typing in programs for magazines, right?
Yeah, because I've typed in 2 as I was on this call. So, right. Yeah. What's funny is I don't have a record player, so of course I just listen to this on my iPod, and it's funny, like this record has like, I think, I don't know, 6 songs per side or 5 songs, and like there's all these extra tracks like when I listen to it on my iPod, so it's like an hour long, and of course you can never hold that much music on an LP. So yeah. But cool, very cool. Thank you, Ryan.
So I want to mention something. I am not a collector of things. I'm trying to be even less a collector of things. And I have become an accidental temporary owner of a lot of stuff. As I am working my way through these tapes and magazines and whatever it is, I file it away. If there's only one of that thing, it goes into a box, and I'm gonna save it in case I need to go back to it and rescan it or whatever. But I have multiples of books, of cassette tapes, of stuff, and I don't want stuff. Some of you may be aware that I have another website called andertone.com, and I'm going to be putting that stuff up there. And the reason that I'm going to put it there and not eBay is twofold. One is that I want to make sure that everybody in the group who has an interest in, you know, for instance, owning a Spectrum video game tape, has that opportunity, right? Whereas if it goes on eBay, you know, it's the great unwashed. And the other half of that is that I'm not really interested, you know, folks who put stuff on eBay, they, you know, they're trying to obviously make a few dollars, and I'm not really interested in making a few dollars. I'm interested in making a few dollars to cover the hosting bill, but that's a reasonably easy thing to accomplish. So when I put stuff up there, I'm not going to, it's not going to be eBay prices. And I want to make sure that, like I said, anybody who is in the group that, you know, wants to get a, you know, wants to own physical objects, I'm happy to accommodate you. So, but what I don't want to do is spam the group list, and I don't want to use the email meeting announcements for this stuff. I want to keep it all separate so that people aren't, you know, don't get upset because there's commerce going on in a meeting announcement. So there's a list. If you go to andertone.com, you can sign up on that list, and that is the list upon which I will announce that something is available. There's probably 15 or 20 books that I'll be putting up soon, and I'll just send out a notice and say, you know, I put a whole bunch of stuff up, have at it. There's a whole bunch of Spectrum tapes that are going to go up there because they've already been archived, and I don't need to make copies of those things. And then, you know, some hardware. I've got like 2 or 3 2040 printers or parts or something. Oh, right. And that reminds me, there's also some obscure bits. Like, for instance, I have a drawer full of when I say this, Willie knows what I'm talking about. Those drawers behind Willie in the parts drawers, electronic parts stores. I have one of those that's full of SCLDs that are prototypes. Most of them are 1500 SCLD prototypes, but there's a couple 2068 prototypes. I'm going to send some over to Joao for his museum and figure out what the extras are and put them up, you know. So if you're a person who wants to hold a little tiny SCLD, I will facilitate that. I also, for some reason, have a drawer full of Timex Sinclair ROMs. I mean, literally, it says, you know, Timex 1983 and Sinclair 1982 on it. That kind of thing. And anyway, so sign up on that list because I don't want to pollute any of the other lists. I don't want to pollute the, you know, the email that I send out in theory once a month that says here's new stuff on the website, or these group meeting lists with that kind of junk. Willie, you like to collect.
I got a bunch of it, that's for sure.
So that'll be where that happens. If that's your thing, I'll be happy to help you out. I'll be happy to put more basement ballast in your house.
Well, David, we're down to about 10 minutes. Is there anyone else who wanted to bring up anything that we have before David tells us what's going on in the next meeting and when it is and who's going to show up?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Going once?
Hey, maybe one.
Hey.
I was just going to say the Airco system was the easiest to implement. It doesn't require any extra commands that are not already available in the computer. All you do is turn the computer on and it automatically installs itself and changes the error code intercept so that it recognizes all the commands that are not J commands, that's intercepting J commands is what it does. The only disadvantage of the Airco system, it was not compatible with the OS64 or the Spectrum ROM. I had to rewrite the Airco ROM so it would be compatible with it. I have the Millennial K, and I have the Larkin system, and I have the Airco system, and the Airco is the best one.
Keith, I have a tape to send you. So I don't know if you were if you were listening earlier. Paul Bingham sent me a box full of tapes that had been sent to SyncWare News, and one of those tapes is your tape that you sent in with the horsepower curve program that you wrote. So if you would like that tape back, I will be more than happy to send it to you. This is the other thing I'm hoping to do, is reunite people with things they had, submitted somewhere.
I don't remember sending a tape. I sent you some images on the screen.
Yeah. No, this is your tape with if I recall correctly, I think that there's a 2040 printout giving some explanation.
This is from the 80s you're talking about. That was
this is from the recently. 80s that I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, it would be from the 80s. That's when I wrote that program a long time ago.
I bet you want that.
Alan, were you about to say something? You had something to add there too?
Yeah, I want to solve some cognitive dissonance I have here, because I've been forgiving David in the last few meetings for calling John Elijah or John Oliger.
Oh, really?
Then Willie Jones comes on and he knows him, and he's saying John Oliger too. So I'm wondering if I've had it wrong for 30 years.
Willie?
Oliger's way I've always called him, so I don't know how to sound.
And he didn't correct you?
No, he never has.
Okay.
Okay.
System, he calls it the Oliger system.
Yeah.
Well, I don't correct people when I say anything wrong anymore either.
I see I'm wrong.
Well, maybe, you know what we need to do? We just need to get him on.
Yeah. That would solve it.
That'll solve the problem.
We'll start by calling him John Elijah and see what happens.
Right. You know what? I'll do that this week because I believe he hasn't moved really according to the internet, and you can get his phone number from the internet. So I'll call him and say, "Is this John Elijah or John Oliver?"
After he hangs up on you, I'll call him back.
Right. Yeah. I'll make sure Adam's queued up. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. But I will get a hold of him and ask him to come and talk to us, because I think it would be he did so much cool shit, and I would love to hear about that. Okay, so as Adam mentioned, on the 18th, we're going to have Richard Booth, and Richard wrote a book about doing complex math on the ZX81/1000, and I think sort of halfway through the process he got a 2068, and so he revised his things to also work on the 2068. And when I say complex math, this is the kind of shit that I avoided in high school, that I did not take college courses for. But you can type in some programs that make some really nifty images, and I fully intend to do that using Jeff's hardware when it's finally available. And it will make pretty pictures, which is all that matters in my mind. That look like computer art. So anyway, Richard wrote this book. He advertised in a bunch of the magazines for quite a while, and he was at a university at the time. So the address for ordering this was some guy's lab at the university. Just cool. Hey, Ingo, you made it. I talked to Ingo earlier and I teased him a little bit. Because he had this long drive ahead of him. And I said, well, Ingo, just check in from the hotel room. I think he may be on his phone or something. So we have reached the end
Well,
of
I
our.
want to make a comment about
go ahead.
about Richard's book.
Yeah.
It was self-published. Am I correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you scanned it in, and it's available for all of us to look at.
Well, yeah, actually, another guy who I want to say Edwin, whose last name is escaping me right now. He was the one that reached out to Richard and got a copy of the book from Richard, and told him about the website. And then so I reached out to him and said, would you be willing to come and join us and listen to us ask you dumb questions? And he seemed pretty excited about it, but he was also concerned about, I don't remember that much stuff, is what he said. I'm like, Richard, that's the case for a lot of folks, but we'll ask you enough questions that you'll remember stuff. Yeah, I personally, I'm just curious, to find out what was his motivation for doing this. I mean, I think part of the motivation was, educational, and showing that you could do some real, to me, it looks like really complicated math, but then again, I'm not a math guy. It looks like really complicated math on the 1000 in BASIC, not even going into machine code.
Well, if before the next meeting, if you want to, I think I mentioned this when you brought up the book before, but I would be willing to type in a couple of those little programs. Okay. Maybe at least one. Just let me know which one you want me to type in, and I'll type it in.
Yeah, and I'll type in a couple too. We can have a little demo.
And like use it under emulation, because it'll take forever to run on real hardware. But I'll type it in on real hardware because I like to do that. Because why else do I have it? Like otherwise, it's just sitting right there. I don't know. But I type it on real hardware and get it to do something under emulation, running at a 10x speed or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you switch your Zoom to a phone like Ryan does?
I could, but I suppose I could. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can watch it run really, really, really slow.
You mean to show you running it on
real hardware?
Too slow to watch it on real hardware.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But I mean, if you want to suffer, like.
It'll be like the old days when we were kids.
I wasn't there in those days. I wasn't there.
Well, you can always build the suspense through the Zoom call. Show it at the beginning.
Right.
And
I'll start it at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah, and then at the
every
end, I'll
10
show you
minutes.
how far I got.
Yeah.
Another pixel.
Right.
Can we Photoshop him into the pictures? Maybe that'll make him feel better.
There we go. Yeah.
And also, I guess the last thing I wanted to ask, if there's anyone here who's present who wants to do a discussion or something in any upcoming meetings, that's always open.
Yeah.
Like we're always open to listening to people who are out there who want to talk to us, and because gosh knows, otherwise it's going to be him and I talking all the time and forget it.
No. As a matter of fact, we have talked in the past about a guy named Jeff Street. He's the guy that wrote the OS64 cartridge and wrote some other stuff for Zebra. And Bruno Florino, who's been on some of our meetings, has tracked down Jeff and gave me the contact information. So I reached out to Jeff, and Jeff responded back. So I'm gonna try to get Jeff for a future meeting, and that'll be cool because
Hey David, can you highlight Ryan? He's like actually showing us pictures of himself and Gallup right now.
Yeah. Let's see. Where's Ryan?
How's it going, Ryan?
Spotlight Ryan. Gallup, New Mexico. Oh, you guys have paused.
Wow, that's awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can. So are you taking the Amtrak or what are you on?
Yeah, I was having a break.
That's cool.
Oh, you guys didn't jump a freight train?
So for those who aren't aware, Gallup is about 2 hours west of Albuquerque. So you must have just got on there because it's a pretty fast little ride to Gallup from here. I've done it.
Yeah. Well, we have, of course, the train was like a couple hours late because
it's Amtrak.
We're lower priority than the freight trains.
Well, have a safe trip, man.
But, yeah. Sorry, I wanted to be on talk a little more about the disk drive stuff, but maybe do some of that on the group chat.
Yeah, well, and we can do that at another meeting too. On top of the disk drives. Yeah. maybe when we get John Oliger on. John
or is it Oliger?
Oliger.
I'm a tiger. I don't know.
Oh, John Tiger. Yes.
John may just have one of those names where he's given up and he'll answer to anything that begins with an O and it ends in an
Yeah.
Oh, poor John.
Yeah, maybe he's Irish or something. Oliger.
Right. Oh my God. That'll be funny. It'll be good.
Well, I guess that's about it. It is 9 o'clock, or excuse me, 11 o'clock for some
11
of you.
o'clock my time.
And I guess 8 o'clock for some of you.
Yeah. So Tim can go off and watch watch some reasonable hour TV. All right. Thank you all.
That time.
Thank you all, and we'll see you on the 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
There you go.
and go later. Bye.